I'm a survivor. I will survive, and I'm a firm believer. Will forever shine, just to stay alive. That simple means that nobody can hold me man. Nobody can change my energy. Nobody can turn me sick. I will not allow negativity. Nobody can hold me man. Nobody can change my energy. Nobody can. Everybody show me some strength. No weakness, show me a lion come. Strength, no weakness, show them who we are. Strength, no weakness, show me a lion come. Everybody strength, no weakness, show them who we are. Not when you roll. Your enemies, they must tremble. Your enemies, they must tremble. Yo, not when you roll. Everything has to humble. Everything has to humble. I'm a go-getter. I just go hard, and I'm a kind of fella. Energy, nobody can turn me sick. I will not allow negativity. Nobody can hold me man. Nobody can change my energy. Nobody can. Yo, just show me some strength. No weakness, show me a lion come. Strength, no weakness, show them who we are. Strength, no weakness, show me a lion come. Everybody strength, no weakness, show them who we are. That's when you're your enemies, they must tremble.
Hello. Hey everyone, who was my first one today? Hey Glender, how are you? Natasha Charles, oh God, hey Natasha.
On this battlefield,
Tougher than steel.
yo, just show me some strength. No weakness, show me a lion come. Strength, no weakness, show them who we are. Strength, no weakness, show me a lion come. Everybody strength, no weakness, show them who we are. That's when you roll.
Your enemy after scatter. How's everybody doing? Hey everyone, how's everybody doing? Hey Kathy, how are you, my friend? Denise, Jennifer, Chemo. I know people say good night to Junior. What about good night to Dion? Hello to Joseph from Louisiana. How are you today? We have a great show lined up, guys. As you come in, please like and share. Like and share. I'm going to go to my phone and I'm going to make sure I like and share this broadcast. We have a phenomenal show lined up. So see, I have my phone and I'm going in and I'm going to like and share. So make sure you like and share. And let me know, Denise, Jennifer, Ventress, Kimoy, let me know where you're liking and sharing from. We haven't done a check-in in a while. So let's like and share and let me know where you're liking and sharing from. So let me go to my phone and make sure I share the broadcast. I'm going to have you do the same. It's going to be a phenomenal show. We haven't done a check-in in a while. So let's like and share. I'm sharing to my page. And we are live today from Jamaica. So see, look, I liked and share. I'm going to ask you to do the same. We have a phenomenal show lined up, guys. Junior will be out today, but it'll be me hosting, and I have a really special guest lined up. Hey, Jennifer from New York City, Kimoy from Grenada, Bula from Fiji. Oh my God, we're reaching Fiji? Wow, I love it. Hey, Zoeb, they're going to push 2 bills. Biden bill is dead. Hey, Jennifer, I love the optimism, Zoeb. Los Angeles, hey, Glender. Hey, guys, like and share as you come in. We're at 93 people. We need to get this up to 100, 150. So like and share. We have a phenomenal show lined up. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day. So go ahead, like and share. I see Grenada shared from Grenada. Hey, Kimo, Frederick, thank you. Go ahead, guys. I'm sharing to at least 2 or 3 groups. Hey, Elisa, Brooklyn, New York. How are you today, my love? Thank you for joining us. We have a phenomenal, phenomenal show lined up. We're going to talk about VAWA. We're also going to talk about the Biden immigration bill. We're going to talk about so much stuff. We're at 97. Come on, guys. Let's get this to over 100. Hey, Lydia. Thank you, my love. Thank you. You're always so kind. You are too kind. Guys, so the Ride Along boss is out today. So it'll be myself, and I have a special guest attorney who's going to be helping me share this. Hey, Doug, I love Doug when you come on early. Like and share, guys. Come on, like and share. We have a couple minutes to like and share. So, hey, guys, I am coming to you from Jamaica today. Hey, Enrica Debreo. Oh, my God. Thank you for coming over here. I appreciate you. I am coming to you guys live from Jamaica today. So if we get to 100 people, I'll show you my views, right? We're at 98. I'm not going to show you my views unless we get to 100. Hey, Sheree from Grenada. Thank you so much for joining us on Ride Along. Junior will be out today, but I'm going to hold it down with Junior. Share from UT. Patricia, help me understand. Is that Utah? Please don't embarrass me, Patricia. I hope it is Utah. So like and share, guys, as you come into the room. Margaret, how are you in Brooklyn? Hey, Natasha, I hope you're well. If we have any friends in Texas, let's know how you're doing. Let us know how you're doing on this Thursday evening. It's Thursday, March 4th of 2020. And I know we all want to talk about the Biden immigration bill, but we also want to talk about other areas of immigration law, what's going on, what are some reliefs. Lydia from Toronto, my pleasure, girl. Welcome. Thanks, Patricia. It is Utah. I appreciate it. So we're at 95. All right, so even if I don't get you guys on, I'll show you my view. So that's my current view. So guys, when I say, look, I'm on an ironing board. So when I tell you I work from anywhere, I absolutely work from anywhere. So I'm coming to you from Jamaica today, right? It's my birthday yesterday. So I celebrated this week on the island with my family, but I continue to run my practice. So if you're in a cold state, I do apologize. I'm over here. I'm like, oh my God, it's hot. I'm fanning because it's hot. But we have a phenomenal show lined up today. We are going to talk about the Biden immigration bill, but we're also going to talk a little bit about VAWA. As you all know, it is Women's History Month. Thank you, Kim Moy. It is phenomenal, isn't it? I agree. Look, I'll just leave you guys there while we talk today. That's my view, guys. So if you're joining right along, that's the view that I am actually doing from today. Thank you, Glenda, for the birthday witch. No, dog, me not rub it in. I am so sorry. I am not rubbing it in. I am not. I'm sorry, guys. Hey, Alyssa. Tamoy, thank you, darling, for the warm welcome. I want to see all my Jamaicans in the house. We're at 113. Okay, good. So now you can fully see the view. Look, that's my view. That's where I'm coming to you from today, guys. Sweet, sweet Jamaica. But let's get down to business because we have a really good show lined up. The lines are open. I want to take this opportunity. Thank you, Mandy, for the birthday greetings. Thank you, Kimo. I really appreciate you guys. So as you know, my sidekick, my partner in crime, Junior, my J, is out today. So I'm going to be holding it down for myself and Junior. We have a phenomenal show lined up. Yes, we're going to talk about the Biden-Harris immigration bill. We're also going to talk about VAWA, Violence Against Women Act. And I have a phenomenal guest lined up to help me with this introduction to VAWA, and she is no other than the phenomenal Miriam LaCroix. Miriam practices law, immigration law, and her passion, like her give is VAWA. And I think in honor and recognition of Women's History Month, it is important that we kind of talk about VAWA. I know we all want to talk about the Biden immigration bill, and Doug, Enrico, Glender, Kimoy, we are going to talk about the Biden immigration bill, but we kind of want to talk today in recognition of VAWA, of Women's History Month. We want to talk a little bit about VAWA to remind you guys of the qualifications, males and females. We want to do a little bit of that today. Miriam LaCroix, welcome to the show. As a reminder, you can always call us 718-701-5720, and we're at 114. So guys, keep liking and sharing as we welcome attorney Miriam LaCroix to the show. Miriam, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. I was jamming backstage to that amazing music. But I'm doing great. And I didn't know it was your birthday yesterday. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. So you missed my party last night, my virtual party.
Yes. Oh, well, I'm glad you got to celebrate in Jamaica.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Guys, let's give a warm welcome to Miriam. I want everybody to say welcome to Miriam. This is Miriam's first time on the Ridealong platform. And you know, if Jay were here, he'd be saying, let's welcome attorney Miriam LaCroix. So go ahead in the comments, go ahead and put welcome Miriam, and we'll get started. Welcome Miriam to the show. Miriam, tell us a little bit about yourself, what areas you practice, and where are you located?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for the warm welcomes. So I am Miriam LaCroix. I am an immigration attorney from New York and the daughter of a Haitian immigrant. And I like to say that my parents are the real life coming to America story. You know, my dad is from Haiti and my mom is from the Bronx, and they went through the immigration process themselves. And so this is really what motivates me to do what I do. And, you know, I want people to know that borders don't have to be barriers, especially to love, right? And so, you know, I'm a product of that. You know, 6 months old, I was on a plane to Haiti to go to my dad's consular interview, right? I've been in the immigration process my whole life. So I love what I do. And I primarily focused on family-based immigration, which is you know, people petitioning for their spouses, children, parents, siblings, of course, and then humanitarian immigration, which we'll talk more about today, but, you know, people who are domestic violence victims or other crime victims.
Thank you, Miriam. And everybody is sending you warm welcomes in the chat.
I appreciate
Sugar
it.
Babe says hello. Patricia says hello. Ventress, Natasha, Cheryl. Here on the Ride Along Show, we are a family, right? So our viewers, Miriam, are either immigrants themselves or they have family members that they'll listen to what we say, and they're our soldiers. They'll take information back to their community. So Miriam, you talked about 6 months old being on a plane. Were you born in the United States?
I was born in the United States, and my father had to go to his immigration interview at the consulate in Haiti. And so my mom was not about to let him go on his own in case he couldn't come back. And so she packed us all up, and we all got on a plane to go to Haiti. And I was just 6 months old.
Wow. So I assume now, Dad, everything is sorted. Dad went home, came back, and you lived happily ever after. But Miriam, you and I both know, based on our practice, that is not always the case.
No, that is absolutely true. That for the most part, a lot of my clients and Deani's clients, we see successful results, but that's not always it's not always a straight route to those successful results either, right? And so, you know, part of why Deani and I do this is so that we can make sure that you get the right information and you don't go through what some of the things our clients have gone through in the past.
So at some point, Miriam, you had a choice for a career path, and you chose immigration. Tell me why.
You know, I've always been interested in human rights, right? It just basic rights for human beings living on this earth. And I thought, oh, I do human rights law, but I didn't want to do that because it was mostly research and there was no client interaction. And I love people and I love to talk to people and I'm always smiling. There's probably never a time you won't see me smiling or talking to someone else. And so I started to do immigration while I was in law school, and I helped a family stay in the United States after they were afraid to return to their home country. And I said, this is exactly what I want to do. This is human rights. And so I just fell into immigration and I haven't left since.
Wow. And what has that journey? Because not only did you choose immigration, but you found this niche practice of an area, which is VAWA, right? And we're going to talk about that later. But tell me your why. Why did you settle on immigration? Was it just because of your personal story, or was it more than that?
It was definitely more than that. Part of it is my personal story, because I know that my parents had, complications in their own immigration case in terms of finding good representation. But part of what really stuck with me about doing immigration is that what I learned early on is that some immigration attorneys have a really bad reputation and they create a bad reputation for other immigration attorneys. And so I was a student seeing so many people come to us say, oh, well, my attorney never met this deadline, or, my attorney didn't do this. And so I learned that there needed to be more attorneys in the immigration bar that represented the positive. And I was sort of, I felt like that was sort of something that was my job. I wanted to help more people, and I wanted to make sure that people didn't think that all immigration attorneys were, taking advantage of them. So that really was the big motivator to become an immigration attorney in general.
So how do your parents feel about you practicing immigration law?
They love it. They love it. I had conversations with you about this before, Deani, where my dad is like funneling people to me.
I love it.
Someone always has a question, right? And he's like, don't worry, my daughter knows the answer. But they love it, and they support me throughout. They supported me throughout this whole process, and they still do.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer, Alyssa, thank you so much. A very common one is not showing up on time for an interview. Ooh, all right, we're going to talk about that later. But thank you, everyone. If you're just joining us, today our special guest is attorney Miriam Lacroix. Say your name for me so I pronounce it right, Miriam.
Lacroix.
Lacroix. So attorney Miriam Lacroix. She's of Haitian descent, and at 6 months old, she went back to Haiti with her dad, who was processed at a consular post. Now, Miriam, we're hearing a lot about the Biden immigration bill. Everybody's talking about the Biden immigration bill. How does that affect VAWA? Because I know you have kind of niched your practice down to VAWA applications. Does the Biden immigration bill affect VAWA whatsoever? That's part one. And what are you telling your clients who are saying to you, look, I just want to wait to see what the Biden bill has in store for me? Oh, God, she did the rollout. What I take it you've been here because, girl, that's all I'm hearing. Like, I'm waiting. Yeah. It's almost like Biden is their dad or uncle. Yeah. And they're like, I'm just going to wait to see what my uncle brought from America for me.
Yeah.
So you are getting that. You're getting that.
It's so funny because a post that I scheduled for my Instagram today was just about that. So like I do get that all the time.
Tell us about that, where individuals are saying, I want to wait. And what are you telling your clients?
I am telling people who come to me and they ask me, because even I have clients who were in the process when Biden got elected, and they call me and they're like, wait, should I just wait? Because I hear that he might be getting rid of the public charge rule, the addition to the public charge rule, because we know that has always been in effect. I hear that he's doing all these things. Should I just wait? And I tell them, absolutely not, right? Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is written in stone yet. And so there really is no point in you holding your application back. You know, the timeframes are already long. Get yourself in the queue. If a miracle happens and he gets rid of the public charge or anything else, then he gets rid of it, and you go to interview having to prove, you know, what we had to prove in the past, and you have to prove all this extra stuff. So get your application in now. Don't wait.
And as a reminder, guys, we're talking about the Biden immigration bill, and we're going to narrow it down to our VAWA applicants. As you can know, the Biden immigration bill is a proposal. We do not have a final bill on the table. I know we have a caller on the line. Junior, let's go to that caller. Caller, you are live. This is Ridealong. I know we have a caller on the line. Caller, can you hear us?
Yes. Hey, how are you?
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I have a question for Miriam.
Sure.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you
Yep.
loud and clear, sir. Just start with your question.
So my question is, first of all, I think Miriam is a very beautiful woman.
Thank you.
That's number one. Can I say that? Is that all right?
We'd rather you just ask your question, sir.
Sure. My question is, if I was to marry someone, right, and she was a full blown American, and I'm not, and we would have married, how long would it take for me to get citizenship?
So you mean citizenship, sir, or a green card?
Well, green card.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for calling in. So if I understand your question, if you were to marry someone and she's a United States citizen and you're not, how long would it take for you to get your green card? Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. If you hang up, Attorney Lacroix will answer your question for you. We thank you so much for calling in, sir.
Okay.
All right, so go ahead and listen to the answer. All right, Miriam, you are gorgeous, by the way. So I agree with the caller.
Thank you.
I what can I say? I agree with the caller. He says you're gorgeous, and I agree with him. So thank you, Miriam. So before we get into VAWA, so this gentleman is asking if he were to marry a United States citizen, what would be the time frame for him to get a green card? So let's assume, Miriam, that he's in the United States and he entered lawfully.
Okay. Right. And so there's a bunch of steps in between getting your green card, right? But I'll answer your question straightforward first, and if Diani allows me, I can add some other things to it. Currently, I'm seeing that from the time that you apply for your green card to the time that you go to your interview and are issued your green card is around 1.5 to 2 year wait. And so I don't want anyone to sort of freak out about that time frame, because that is a really long time frame. But if we're assuming that you entered the country lawfully and you're already here, you, in the meantime, of course, could obtain work authorization and possibly a travel document so that you can still live your life as you wait for your green card to come in the mail.
Caller, I hope you heard Attorney Lacroix. And, you know, here on the Ridealong Show, we try not to give a lot of time frames. I love, Miriam, that you said it can go from 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years. So, yeah. Caller, we hope we were able to answer the question for you. Our phone lines are open, 718-701-5720. Do we have a caller on the line? No caller on the line. Let's talk about the Biden immigration bill. So we were talking earlier, Miriam, before the call came in. And guys, please free. You can call, you can text your questions in the comments. And we're going to also give you how you can get a hold of Attorney Lacroix later on in the show. Just hang with us. Now, Attorney Lacroix, the Biden immigration bill, can I apply now? I mean, can I just apply?
No, that is a flat out no. There's nothing for you to apply for right now. So be wary, be careful of, you know, people setting up shop and taking money and saying, I'm going to apply for the Biden immigration bill for you. It doesn't exist yet. It's in the process, right? This is an idea. This is something that the Biden administration has presented to Congress, but it hasn't become law. So there's nothing for you to apply for yet.
And so if this law were passed and I'm in an abusive relationship, because today's show is about VAWA applicants, what would happen if this law were to pass?
Yeah, so this new bill actually expands VAWA just a little bit, right? And so just to be clear, there are a few, I guess I should say a few forms of relief available under VAWA. So the Violence Against Women Act is a law that how can I best explain it? It's a law that allows for the possibility that certain individuals who might not have otherwise been eligible for a green card to obtain their green card. So under VAWA, there are a list of relief available to people. And one of them that I'm not going to be touching on tonight that will be expanded is the U visa. And that's for crime victims and domestic violence victims. And right now, there are only a limited amount of people that can be granted the U visa, or the crime victim visa, basically. And this new bill will actually expand that. So it will go from $10,000 a year to $30,000. And that's what he's proposing. It's unclear what we'll be talking about tonight, the self-petition portion of VAWA, how he will expand that, those protections. But he does mention that he wants to expand protections to victims of domestic violence under VAWA.
All right. Thank you, attorney. Now talk to us about VAWA. Who qualifies? Like, so if I'm in an abusive relationship and my partner is female, do I qualify? So kind of walk us through the steps of who qualifies. And when I present myself in your office and, I tell you, look, I came here, he has not hit me, he hasn't touched me, but he won't sign the paperwork. Talk to me about who qualifies for VAWA and what your office can do to help those individuals.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I want to talk about first is the name VAWA, Violence Against Women Act, is almost a misnomer, right? It's almost like it doesn't actually explain what it does. And one of the issues with it is it only talks about women. And yes, this is Women History Month, but I want to make it clear that VAWA does apply to men as well, right? I have helped men get their green cards through this process that I'm about to explain to you all. So I like to call it the self-petition because that's what it is, right? You are petitioning for yourself so that you don't have to rely on an abusive spouse for your green card, for you to have security and safety in the United States. And so if someone were to come into my office, and usually people come into my office at the stage where maybe their spouse has already filed something and the spouse won't go to the interview. And I see a lot of that. And mostly the clients will say, oh, I went to a bunch of lawyers and they told me there's nothing I can do, right? But upon speaking to them, hearing more of their story, I found out that they may be eligible for VAWA. So what are the requirements? One, I'll find out if your spouse is a US citizen or a permanent resident. That's a requirement, right? Permanent resident is another word for green card holder. So if your spouse is a US citizen or a green card holder, you meet the first requirement under VAWA, right? Under the self-petition. Second, you and your spouse must have been married in good faith. What does that mean? It means that your marriage is real. It means that you plan to build a life together. And so it's more than just the marriage certificate. Submitting just the marriage certificate means nothing. It just proves that you're legally married, right? But what do you have to show that your marriage is real and that you want to build a life with this person? Do you have children together, right? If you don't have children together, do you have joint assets like cars and homes and car insurance? Or do you intermingle your finances like taxes or bank accounts, right? The third requirement is that you live together. And this is a big one. While there are real marriages where spouses don't live together for various reasons. Maybe one is in school, one is in the military. There are a bunch of reasons why they don't live together. But we want to explore that. So if you have questions about that, you definitely want to speak to an immigration attorney before you file something like this. The fourth requirement is that you have good moral character. So if you have a criminal history, have you rehabilitated? How long ago was it, and what kind of history it is? And if you don't, even better, right? And finally, and one of the most important parts of applying for the self-petition is that you've experienced battery or extreme cruelty at the hands of your US citizen or permanent resident spouse. And Deani made a good point, right? Sometimes a client might come into my office and say, my spouse never touched me. I haven't experienced domestic violence. I've never been hit before. I want to make this extremely clear. Domestic violence is not just physical violence, right? That's the most obvious sign of domestic violence, but that is not the only element to prove domestic violence. And so these are some of the questions that I think you should think about in, determining whether or not this is something that you may be eligible for, right? Does your spouse play mind games with you, make you feel like you're crazy, right? I had a client that came in and his wife was like openly cheating on him, messages to her phone, a man was in their home, and then she'd be like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. There's nobody here. I'm not, mind games, right? What about, does your spouse put you down or call you names or humiliate you, right? In front of people, in front of family. That's abuse, right? Maybe calling you stupid one time during an argument may not be abuse, but consistently calling you a name and yelling at you and calling you other names could be considered abuse. Does your spouse intimidate you, make you feel obligated to give them what they want, to do something for them, right? Intimidation, they may have never touched you, but maybe you feel like they could, right? Do they hit walls? Do they throw things? Do they push things off the table? That is huge. Somebody mentions verbal abuse. Exactly. Yelling at you or calling you names, does your spouse shame you for your education level, right? Do they think they're better than you because they have a college degree and you only have, a high school education? Does your spouse control you, control the money, control who you talk to, control where you go, control who you send money to back home, right? These are really big red flags in terms of abuse. And finally, does your spouse threaten your immigration status? Has your spouse ever threatened?
I love that one. Talk to us a little bit. Let me just take a minute. Good evening, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're talking to attorney Miriam Lacroix, and I'm going to get it right by the end of the night. And she is our special guest this evening. And we're talking about VAWA, right? We know there's a Biden immigration bill out there, and I'm pushing individuals to not so much sit and wait for the outcome of the Biden bill, but in recognition of Women's History Month, we want to talk about options for women, right? Miriam kind of touched on the U, and we'll move that, the U visa, we'll move that to next week, right? So Dion Fraser, welcome. Miriam is a friend of the Immigration Law Academy, and she's here today talking to us about VAWA. I want to talk about Miriam threatening, and I know you went through, having the U.S. citizen spouse or the green card holder. We talked about the good faith marriage. We talked about the living together. I want to talk about a little bit about threatening the immigration status, because I find a lot of times individuals will say, well, he never touched me. That's not abuse. And Geraldine asked a little bit earlier, let me see if we can pull up the constant cheating spouse, and we'll touch on that too. And I'll try to grab Geraldine's question, but talked about the threatening. Oh, there's Geraldine's question. Will you need evidence of domestic abuse, such as filed complaints? What if I never went to the police station? What do I do? Thanks, Dion. Thank you so much for joining us.
The thing that I love about VAWA is that the standard for any evidence that you submit is that it has to be credible, right? And so your statement alone, along with other proof of your relationship, the other things that I talk about, your statement alone can be very strong in terms of the domestic abuse you experienced at the hands of your spouse. So no, you don't need filed complaints. You don't need police reports. You don't need photos or, but one thing that I do think that would be helpful is if you have seen a counselor or a therapist, someone that can talk about the emotional, role that this has had on you. So no, you don't need complaints at all.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the threat with the immigration paperwork? Because I get that a lot. Like, I'm not signing the paperwork. Talk about how do we prove that?
So, as I was saying, a lot of times that's proven and written in your declaration or your affidavit that you swear is the truth. Also, another way that this is proven is if your spouse starts the process, right? They go through the process with you, they file paperwork, but suddenly you get a request for more evidence and they don't want to do it anymore. And so you miss that deadline. Or the interview comes up and you can't go to the interview because they refuse to go. A lot of that is evidence of this type of abuse. And then there's sometimes even more egregious evidence. For example, I had a client whose husband actually contacted USCIS and said that their marriage was a fraud, which was silly on his part because he would get in trouble too. But that was evidence that we used, right? An email that he forwarded her saying that he told USCIS that their marriage was fraud. So sometimes you just don't have that concrete evidence to hand in. Signed and notarized affidavits from household members, absolutely. So that's a piece of evidence that's really helpful in terms of proving, one, that your relationship was legitimate, but two, that maybe other people noticed that you weren't happy anymore, that you were sad all of a sudden, that your spouse sort of embarrassed you in front of people or talked to you a certain way.
Thank you, attorney. So if you're joining us, we're talking about VAWA. Of course, we know the Biden immigration bill is hanging out there. Our position as immigration law attorneys is that, look, don't wait for this bill to pass. But if you think you have a position, if you think you have an option to pursue your immigration matter, to go ahead and do so. We're joined by attorney Miriam Lacroix. She's going to be telling us the qualifications for VAWA on the back end of our first break. Attorney Lacroix, welcome to the Ridealong Show. We're now going to take our first break of the evening.
A message by the Grenada Distillers Limited.
You want a hand sanitizer to do 3 things: kill germs, be gentle, and to go where you go. You can get all of that in our hand sanitizer. Hard on germs, gentle on hands, affordable. Remember, hand sanitizers contain alcohol. Keep away from heat and flames and avoid contact with eyes. Available at retailers island-wide.
A message by the Grenada Distillers Limited.
All right, guys, welcome back and thank you for joining us. We're joined this evening by attorney Miriam Lacroix. And look, if you just joined us, I just want to show you my view. I am sorry, guys. I hope I'm doing the view justice.
Yep.
I am? Is it good?
It's good.
Yeah, that's where I'm
beautiful.
That's where I'm having dinner after the show, guys. This is, hey, Spice Buffy, how are you, my love? Hey, Spice, how are you? Guys, if you're joining us, tag a friend. Like, who's a back room? Like, we have a phenomenal attorney here with us. I see some of our regulars. I want to thank you for joining us. Junior is out today, so I'm holding it down for Junior. I hope I'm making him proud. And so I decided to bring in an expert on VAWA. Like, she loves VAWA. It's her passion. She is attorney Miriam Lacroix. She's of Asian descent, and she's joining us here today on the Ridealong Show. Attorney Lacroix, we talked about the requirements for VAWA. You know what I saw last year, attorney, was a gentleman in Brooklyn who was just filing all kinds of fraudulent paperwork
Ugh.
for VAWA applications. Talk to us about why that is not a good way to go. Like, why would you not submit fraudulent documents, Re-Vawa, to USCIS?
Absolutely. It's not the way to go because there are serious consequences for basically lying to immigration, right? To an immigration official, lying to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, which is the administrative arm of immigration, where you file all of your applications, and those serious consequences can lead to deportation, right? You can file something that is fraudulent, and they can refer your case to Homeland Security, where you will be issued a notice to appear in court to fight against deportation. And I noticed that people feel good in the beginning, when they file paperwork this way, right? Because they get a work authorization. They're like, oh, this is working. I have my social, I can work, this feels great. And then down the line, a few months, a year, maybe 2 years later, you get denied, and those consequences of deportation are upon you. So it's just not a good idea. It prevents you from filing for things in the future.
Thank you, Attorney Lacroix. So you heard it. So tell us about, you just talked about the requirements. Talk to us about those 3 or 4 requirements for VAWA. And
Sure.
if you have VAWA as an option, why you should pursue it. We do have a caller on the line. Let's take that call, and then we're going to talk about the requirements for VAWA. Caller, good afternoon. You are live. Thank you for calling. You're live. All right, we're not hearing the caller. Tell us about the quick requirements, Attorney Lacroix, for VAWA.
So there are 5 requirements for VAWA. 1, your spouse has to either be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, aka green card holder. 2, your spouse and you had to have been married in good faith. You had to have been married so that where you plan to build a life together, a real legitimate marriage. 3, you have to have lived together. This is sort of a loose requirement. If you haven't, there may be ways around that, right? 4, you have to be a person of good moral character, and you have to prove that. And 5, you have to show by declaration, at least, that you've experienced either battery or extreme cruelty at the hands of your U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident spouse.
Thank you, Counselor. Now, what happens if a citizen files for his spouse and her kids? She is victimized. Who dies? Jennifer, who dies? The victim dies or the citizen dies? Jennifer, retype your question, darling, so we can answer you. Miriam, let me ask you this. What if you file a fraudulent VAWA application, like for all those individuals in Brooklyn, and Joe is asking all those individuals that the gentleman filed the fraudulent application for, what happens?
Well, I met with some of those individuals, and some of them didn't get a notice to appear in court, right? It just got denied and sort of forgotten about. And so later on down the line, it could come up if maybe this woman, maybe she married a U.S. citizen and it's going through the process, the marriage-based green card process. It could come up. And it really depends on your intent when you file the application, right? In this situation, this gentleman in Brooklyn, most of the people who he filed this for weren't even aware. They just sort of trusted him. They paid him. He said, I could get you work authorization. And so there was no intent behind what had happened. She was taken advantage of. And so there may be a way around it so that she could benefit in the future. But what could happen is, you could be accused of fraud or misrepresentation, which is a whole other issue, but could prevent you from being eligible for your green card.
Right. So guys, you're hearing it here. Like, I would prefer you not file a fraudulent application.
Yes.
Because even though you have not received that notice to appear, so any application that's denied by USCIS, and Attorney Lacroix talked about that earlier, you can potentially get a notice to appear, which means that the government is trying to remove you from the United States. For those individuals out of Brooklyn, Joe, answering your question, if you didn't get the notice to appear, it doesn't mean that immigration has forgotten about that application you submitted. So now you've kind of moved on with your life. You've entered into a bona fide marriage, and now you want to proceed that. Remember, when you go to that interview, that old application becomes a part of your file, and you can be asked question about that. So Jennifer says, if a citizen files for his wife along with her kids, the citizen victimizes her and she dies, what happens to her kids who were derivative applicants? Counselor, you feel comfortable answering that in a hypothetical situation?
Yes, absolutely. One thing about VAWA, it doesn't only protect spouses of abusive citizens and permanent residents. It also protects parents and children. So if a parent is abused by their child, they can apply for the self-petition, right? If a child is abused by their parent, they can also apply for this, right? And so they have to meet the definition of child under immigration, right? Is this the child of the citizen, number one? If not, was the citizen married to the mother before the child hit a certain age? I believe it's 16. Don't quote me on that. It's 16. And so then that child will be considered the child of the citizen. But I think that would be, in my opinion, an excellent case for VAWA for those children whose mother has passed away. And I don't know if she passed away due to the abuse. But if so, I think, hands down, that is something that this person should see an attorney about, for VAWA.
Awesome. All right, counselor, what if you marry a United States citizen, but they live in another state?
Ooh.
Do you have to move to that state, or can you live where you are? Well, I love it. It's a modern marriage, right?
Yeah.
I want to live in Florida. My husband's going to live in California, and never the two shall meet. What does immigration think about this?
I think so. And this might be just my opinion, but I think immigration, or the immigration officers at least, must be really old-fashioned. Because
they define marriage in a traditional sense. So answer Natasha's question.
Yeah. So what I think is that this is possible. This is absolutely, immigration doesn't like this generally, right? But it is possible. And I think you would have to answer the question of, do you plan on living in separate states throughout the course of your marriage?
If the end goal, right?
Right, exactly. If that's the case, then I honestly think that might be trouble, because I had a case similar to this, but the wife was in college, and so she needed to live in another state, but she planned on coming back. But the officer
makes sense,
right? But the officer still asked.
What about there's no college?
Right. The officer will ask, well, how do you plan to build a life together if you're like finances? You're just going to see each other every weekend. Like, what's the goal here? And that, I think that could cause an issue in terms of getting your green card approved, to be honest.
I love that. What if it were a VAWA case and we're living in two different states?
So,
because you talked about the living together, and so let's talk about that a little bit as it pertains to that question.
I think my answer would be similar, right? Because to apply for VAWA, the requirements are very similar when you're still together with your spouse and applying for your permanent residence. And so they're still going to have questions about what your plan was when you were living in two separate states. If we can bring it back to the abuse, right? You made up some reason with your spouse so that you could live somewhere else, just so you could get away from them, right? If we can relate it back to the abuse, then I think that it's definitely doable. But they will still have those questions, right? Was your marriage legitimate to begin with?
Thank you, attorney. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We are talking about VAWA. If somebody has a possible case for VAWA, so they're married to a United States citizen or they're married to a green card holder and they're waiting for the Biden bill, they can prove everything we talked about or everything you talked about. What are your recommendations, counselor?
My recommendation is that if you see tonight that you may be eligible for something like this, I wouldn't wait. Like I said earlier in the call, the Biden bill is not set in stone yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what changes are going to happen in immigration in the future. We're hoping that they're positive changes, but what if something changes that affects your eligibility for this? Right? You want to be in the queue before something like this happens. And so my advice to you is to go ahead and get started as soon as you can.
And what's your advice to someone who says the questioning from immigration is outdated and downright discriminatory when it comes to immigration? I'm going to tell you what I think, but I want to hear your thoughts.
The questioning, you mean on the forms or the questioning at the interview?
I would say at the interview for like a VAWA application, when you go to your interview and they're asking you, do you live together? Prove this bona fide marriage, and you have to prove all these things. Let's assume that.
Okay. So I'll just be clear and say at the interview, they won't ask you about your VAWA because that is only dealt with at the service center. But yes, I have a lot of issues with our immigration system. I think it has been historically discriminatory against people who look like us. But it is what it is, right? You have to be prepared for whatever process we have in place right now. And so whatever questions that they ask, whether you like them or not, your attorney, if you have an attorney, is going to prepare you for those types of questions so that you know how you should be able to answer them. So I agree with you, but this is what we're working with.
All right, Geraldine, you heard it from the council. Of course, we agree, but that's kind of how it is. Now, a large portion of your clientele, are they Haitian or what's your clientele base?
I have a nice mix. I would say that my base is really the Caribbean population. They're Haitian, Jamaican, from Dominica, like from everywhere. And I love it because I get to talk to people from all over the world. Some of my clients aren't even in the United States, so they're all over.
And so where are they based? They're all over the United States because as an immigration lawyer, you can definitely represent people everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. That's the benefit we have. We are traveling lawyers.
Yeah. And so what if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, if they're listening tonight and they think, wow, I think I have been abused, or I think I'm in a situation where this might be an option for me, how would they get a hold of you?
Sure. So the best way to get a hold of me is to give me a call, right? I don't know if you want me to just say my phone number or if that will come later. Yeah.
Say it, and we'll ask our folks in the back for us to put that up on the screen. If you want to schedule, and if you think you're in a position where, VAWA, you're like, I'm not sure. There's some things she talked about. It was only 60 minutes. Certainly, she cannot tell you everything about VAWA. Thanks, Dion. Yeah, let's spell her name correct. I love that, Dion Fraser, for saying let's spell the attorney's names correct. Guys, before I have Attorney Lacroix talk about, that's my view.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful.
That's my view. So before we have her talk about how you can get a hold of her, go ahead and connect with her. If you think you have a possible case for VAWA, keep in mind, do not wait for the Biden immigration bill. Please. We know the bill is a proposal, right? We don't know what the final outcome will be. And here on Ridealong, we're going to continue to talk about the bill, right? We're going to talk about the bill till the cows come home. We talked about it last week. We're going to talk about it next week. But in the same breath, I don't want that to be the end all and be all for immigration for us, right? Because if you have an option, you heard Attorney Lacroix talk about, pursue that option. If it's VAWA, pursue it. in the case of VAWA, if you've heard something tonight and you think it's a possibility that you can probably consult with an attorney, Attorney LaCroix, how can we get a hold of you?
So you can get a hold of me to schedule a consultation at 914-368-3550. That's my office number. And you can text me, you can call me. I have WhatsApp, whatever's convenient for you. You can contact me on that number. And that's probably the best way so that I can see it on my phone and know to reach back out to you.
I'm going to ask my folks 914-368-3550. If you want to talk about VAWA, Attorney LaCroix loves VAWA. It's what she does. Any parting remarks before we wrap up? I know the 60 minutes went like that, but
wow, yeah.
Right? It's 60 minutes.
It's a good time conversation. You know, it does go fast.
Happened? We have one. Let's take one more question, and we're putting your number up on the screen. It is 914-368-3550. Attorney Miriam LaCroix, LaCroix. LaCroix is the correct spelling. We have one more question. Well, two more. Let's try to get through them before the top of the hour.
Sure.
I applied for VAWA and I was asked for my RFE. I was given my work permit and advance parole, but when it was refused, I didn't get it back. I got back my work permit, but not my advance parole. Marisa, this sounds like something you want to reach out to the attorney for and schedule your consultation. What do you think, counselor?
No, absolutely. I think I would need to know a little bit more about what happened with your application for work authorization. Maybe you didn't apply for the travel document the second time. I'm not sure, but absolutely reach out and we can discuss that.
Well, it says he got his work permit, but not advance parole.
Right.
Mauricia, reach out to the lawyer so we can answer that for you. Howard says, good evening. My question is, if you have the option of getting married or waiting on the Biden bill, which may be less stressful, is it? Howard, I don't think it's less stressful. We don't know what's in it. That stresses me. But let's ask the question. Howard says, if you have the option of getting married or waiting on the Biden bill, which may be less stressful, where paperwork and legal documents are concerned, and which option may be quicker to get a green card if the bill becomes a reality?
Okay.
All right. So if you're going to get married, Howard, make sure it's bona fide. Number one, make sure it's a real marriage. Less stressful when it comes to immigration. You want to make sure it won't be stressful if you're doing everything according to the laws. It won't be stressful as far as legal documents are concerned. And people like to ask, what is the fastest way to a green card? How do you answer that with Howard's question, counselor?
What is the fastest way to a green card? Okay.
I don't like that question, but I'll hear. I want to hear your thoughts.
I can tell you how to not delay the process any further, right?
Love it. Love it.
I can tell you that you need to hire an attorney because it's a complicated process, but also, you know, all your forms need to be filled out completely. Even if something doesn't apply to you, it needs to say not applicable there, right? You have to submit all of the evidence ahead of time. Don't let them send you an RFE, like that person said, a request for evidence. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that if this is a marriage-based case, that you're telling your story, right? Don't let them guess how you met and all these things. Tell your full story about how you and your spouse met. Insert some pictures. These are the things that prevent the delay. How to get your green card quicker? It's a crapshoot when it comes to immigration. You know, like there's really no answer to that. But I do know that you can prevent additional delay for sure.
Thank you, attorney. Any last words before we begin the wrap up for today? We have posted your telephone number, 914-368-3550. 3550. Ladies and gentlemen, we spent an hour talking to Attorney Lacroix. I don't know where the time went, right? We talked about VAWA today. I think you might have to come back. I just think
I would love to.
I think you have to come back because it went so fast. Guys, any parting words, counselor?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I'd like to get across to people who are going through the immigration process or thinking about going through the immigration process is, if nothing else, have a consultation with a known, competent immigration attorney, right? Not an attorney that practices everything, right? Exactly.
Point to yourself, talk to a lawyer, guys.
Yes, talk to a lawyer. This is something that Diani and I do full time. This is our practice, immigration. And so you want to talk to someone like us about your circumstance before you move forward doing anything. And you should hire the lawyer to do the application for you, because like I said, any mistake, especially now, can delay your application, can cost you money and time, and you don't want that.
Thank you, counsel. So today, guys, all we talked about was just, do you qualify? Next week for VAWA, in honor of Women's History Month, of course, we're going to talk about the Biden bill, but we're also going to talk about the application process. So today was kind of like part one, like, do you qualify? And we talked about whether you qualify. Are you married to a United States citizen or not, or a green card holder? So today was part one. Jennifer, Geraldine, Spice, Dion, Fraser, I want to thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to be back next week, right? So visit Attorney Lacroix. If you have a question, 914-368-3550 to set up your consultation. 914-368-3550. Thank you, Dion, for getting that up on the screen for us. You can schedule your consultation there. Attorney Lacroix, thank you for coming to the Ride Along show.
Of course. Someone had just mentioned here about looking up attorneys, and I'd be happy to share with anyone who sends me a text my how to look for an immigration attorney, like handout, like things to check for, how to find an immigration attorney. So shoot me a text and I'll share that document with you. Text me with your email and I'll get that to you.
So if you text your email to 914-368-3550, you're going to get a response from the attorney to say, these are the things that you should look for when you're seeking out an attorney. And it's good to work with somebody you know, like, and trust, right? Choose somebody. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be myself or Attorney Lacroix, but it needs to be somebody you know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
Counselor, 100%. Thank you for joining us. Next week, we're going to talk about the application process. And to wait, not ready yet. Lord Jesus.
Starting the music on you.
They're like, it's like a party when they turn the lights on, like, get out of here. Guys, thank you so much. This is Diani. I am coming to you from Jamaica. I'll see you guys back here next Thursday. But remember, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Clubhouse. I'm waving to my brother who's watching me. But guys, look, dinner is waiting for me, and that's my background.
Enjoy.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, counselor. All right, take it out, guys.
Everybody's straight. Don't be there, show them who we are. And when you're your enemies, they must tremble. Your enemies, they must tremble. Yo, and when you're everything has to humble. Everything has to humble. I'm a go-getter.
Hey, I got some good news for you. Looking for a passionate immigration lawyer with experience that spans over 2 decades? Someone trusted that served immigrant families just like yours? Well, look no more. Now you can benefit from her personal and professional experience. Diane Winter Funding. Schedule a consultation now and get assistance with your immigration journey. Specialize in adjustment of status, B1 business visa, B2 visitor's visa, consular processing, deportation defense, naturalization, and more. Give us a call today at 813-815-3529. That's 813-815-3529 or online at winterimmigration.com. Attorney Dione Winter Funde, law done differently.
A message by the Grenada Distillers Limited.
You want a hand sanitizer to do three things: kill germs, be gentle, and to go where you go. You can get all of that in our hand sanitizer. Hard on germs, gentle on hands, affordable. Remember, hand sanitizers contain alcohol. Keep away from heat and flames and avoid contact with eyes. Available at retailers island-wide.
A message by the Grenada Distillers Limited.
You gotta be firm in this time, son. You gotta be strong in this time, son. I'm a survivor. I will survive. I will survive. And I'm a firm believer. We'll forever shine just to stay alive. That simple means it. Nobody can hold me, man. Nobody can change my energy. Nobody can tell me sick. I will let alone negativity. Nobody can hold me, man. Nobody can change my energy. Nobody can. Nobody can. Everybody show me some strength. No weakness. Show me a lion come. Strength. No weakness. Show them who we are. Strength. No weakness. Show me a lion come. Everybody strength. No weakness. Show them who we are. Not bend the road. The enemies they must tremble.